I found out my brother stole my identity while I was sitting across from a mortgage officer, trying to buy my first house. My fiancée, Natalie, was beside me with a folder full of documents, a pen she brought because she liked being prepared, and the kind of quiet smile people have when they think life is finally moving in the right direction. We had spent 2 years saving for that down payment. 2 years of cooking at home instead of eating out. 2 years of skipping vacations. 2 years of walking through open houses we could not afford yet, just to remind ourselves what we were working toward. We had found a small 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood outside Raleigh, North Carolina. Nothing fancy. A brick ranch with an old fence, a kitchen that needed work, and a backyard big enough for a dog Natalie had already named in her head. We had measured the living room for a couch we did not own yet. We had argued, gently, about whether the spare bedroom would become my home office or, someday, a nursery. Then the mortgage officer looked at her screen, stopped typing, and went quiet. That is never good. She adjusted her glasses and said, "Mr. Cole, are you aware of a business loan opened under your name?" I laughed because I thought she had made a mistake. "No," I said. "I don't own a business." Her expression did not change. "The loan is currently reporting as delinquent." Natalie sat up straighter beside me. "How delinquent?" she asked. The mortgage officer hesitated. "Several missed payments. The balance is $78,000. $78,000. In my name. A lender I had never heard of. A loan I had never signed. A business I did not own. My credit score had dropped almost 100 points. And the address connected to the loan application belonged to my younger brother's car detailing shop. That was the day I learned my family did not just want my help, they wanted my name. My name is Adrian Cole. I was 35 when this happened. At the time, I worked as a financial analyst for a mid-sized healthcare company. Not the flashy Wall Street kind. I did budgets, forecasting, vendor reports, cost analysis, boring spreadsheets that made executives nod like they understood half of what they were approving. I was good at it. I liked numbers because numbers did not cry when you questioned them. They did not accuse you of being selfish. They did not say family, when what they meant was, shut up and absorb the damage. Numbers either worked or they did not. That became important later. I had spent my entire adult life being careful with money. I paid off my student loans early. I drove the same used Honda for 9 years. I never carried credit card debt. I built my credit the slow, boring way. Pay on time. Keep balances low. Do not co-sign for anyone. Especially family. That last rule existed because of my younger brother, Mason. Mason was 31. 4 years younger than me. Charming, impulsive, allergic to accountability, and permanently one good opportunity away from success, according to our mother. He had tried everything. Sneaker resale. A protein powder brand. Day trading. A pressure washing business. Crypto, obviously, because every family has at least one man who thinks losing money on the internet makes him a visionary. His latest project was a mobile car detailing business called Cole Shine Auto Spa, which sounded more successful than it was. He bought a van, wrapped it with a logo, posted videos of himself spraying foam on luxury cars, and talked about scaling, like he had discovered a new religion. At family dinners, he called himself a business owner. My mother called him brave. My father said, "At least he's trying." I said nothing because I had learned that facts were considered rude if they made Mason uncomfortable. Our mother, Diane, protected Mason like it was her full-time job. If Mason missed rent, he was overwhelmed. If he lost a job, the boss was unfair. If he borrowed money and did not repay it, he was embarrassed, and we should not make him feel worse. My father, Robert, was quieter but not better. He was a retired insurance adjuster, which meant he knew exactly how consequences worked for strangers and somehow forgot when it came to his own son. He always wanted things handled privately. Quietly, as a family, that phrase should have been printed on a red flag and stapled to the front door. I was the responsible one. The stable one. The one with the good job, the good credit, the savings account, the clean record. And in my family, being stable did not mean people respected what you built. It meant they considered it available. Mason had asked me for money before. The first time, it was $2,000 for equipment. He promised he would pay it back in 3 months. He paid back $200. The second time, it was $5,000 to bridge a cash flow gap. I said no. He acted wounded for weeks. My mother called me and said, "You know your brother just needs someone to believe in him." I said, "Belief is not a loan product." She cried. My father told me later I could have been kinder. I told him I could have been broke. That did not go over well. So, months before the mortgage meeting, Mason had already learned something important. If he asked me for money, I would say no. Apparently, he decided the solution was not to respect that. It was to remove the asking part. Back in the mortgage office, the loan officer gave me what details she could without crossing professional lines. She printed the summary page from my report and circled the lender name. Greenstone Commercial Capital. Loan opened 11 months earlier. Original amount: $85,000. Current balance: $78,000 and change. Delinquency: 60 days. Associated business address: the same industrial strip where Mason rented a bay for his detailing business. I could feel Natalie looking at me. Not with suspicion. With fear. Because she understood immediately what I did. This was not just a loan. This was our house disappearing from under us before we ever owned it. The mortgage officer was polite, careful, and clearly uncomfortable. "We will need this resolved before we can move forward," she said. Natalie asked, "Does this mean we lose the house?" The officer paused. "If it cannot be cleared quickly, the current approval is unlikely." The word unlikely sat on the desk between us. We left with the folder Natalie had brought and none of the excitement we walked in with. In the parking lot, she stood beside my car and said, "Did Mason do this?" I wanted to say no. Not because I believed it, because saying yes meant accepting that my brother had not just borrowed too much or failed again or needed help. He had used my name. "I don't know," I said. Natalie looked at me. She was a pediatric nurse. She had the kindest hands of anyone I knew, but she could see through nonsense like an X-ray. "Adrian." I exhaled. "The address is his shop." She nodded once. "Then you know." I did. I drove home in silence. That night, I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus. There it was. Greenstone Commercial Capital. Business loan. Late payments. Hard inquiries I never authorized. A phone number I did not recognize. An old address I had not used in years. My social security number. My name. My credit history. My financial identity. Used like a tool someone forgot to return. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. Then I opened a folder on my laptop and named it identity theft. The name looked dramatic. It was accurate. I called the lender the next morning. After 2 transfers and 38 minutes on hold, I reached someone in fraud intake. She asked for my name, date of birth, last 4 digits of my social security number, current address, previous address, and whether anyone in my household or family may have had access to my personal information. That question hit harder than I expected. Family: my parents had old tax documents in their filing cabinet. School records. Copies of old insurance forms. My social security number on paperwork from when I was younger. Mason had lived in that house for years. He knew where things were kept. I said, possibly. She told me the bank could open a fraud investigation, but I would need to file a police report and complete an identity theft affidavit. Police report. That phrase made everything real. I thanked her, took notes, asked for email confirmation, and hung up. Then I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. Natalie came in after her shift, saw my face, and did not ask if I was okay. That is one of the reasons I love her. She knows when the answer is obvious. Instead, she put her bag down and said, "What do we know?" I showed her the reports. She read everything carefully. Then she said, "You need to talk to your parents before they find a way to rewrite this." I laughed once. That assumes they are not part of it. She looked at me. I hated that look. Not because it was cruel. Because it was already grieving something I was still trying not to bury. The next evening, I drove to my parents' house. Mason's van was in the driveway. The bright blue wrap said Colshine Auto Spa in oversized letters. Underneath, in smaller text, Premium Mobile Detailing. The van had a dent near the rear wheel. Of course it did. I parked behind it. My mother opened the door before I knocked. That was the first clue. She looked nervous. Not surprised. Nervous. "Adrian," she said. "We weren't expecting you." Mason was in the living room. My father was in his recliner. The TV was on, but nobody was watching it. I walked to the kitchen table and placed the printed credit report on it. Nobody asked what it was. That was the second clue. I looked at Mason. "You want to explain this?" He swallowed. My mother put a hand to her chest. "Adrian, before you get upset." "Too late." My father stood slowly. "Let's all sit down." "No." Mason tried to laugh. It came out weak. "Man, this isn't what it looks like." That line must come in a starter kit for people who do exactly what it looks like. I tapped the report. There is a $78,000 business loan in my name. It is tied to your business address. It is delinquent. My credit is damaged. Natalie and I may lose the house we were trying to buy. So yes, Mason, explain what it looks like. My mother started crying. Not a little. Immediately. Which told me she had been saving it. Mason was desperate, she said. I looked at her. "You knew?" She did not answer. My father said, "We were going to fix it." I turned to him. "You knew too." He rubbed his forehead. "Adrian, this got away from us." That sentence did something to me. Got away from us. Like the fraud was a dog that slipped its leash. Mason finally spoke. "I was going to pay it back." You missed payments. Business slowed down. You used my social security number. He looked away. I had to put something down. I stared at him. Something. My legal identity was now something. How did you get my information? Nobody spoke. Then my mother whispered. We had old documents. I looked at her. You gave him my social security number? He needed a chance, she said. I laughed. It was not loud. That made it worse. You gave him my social security number. He could not qualify on his own. That is usually a sign someone should not get the loan. My father stepped in. We thought it would be temporary. Temporary fraud is still fraud. Mason's face hardened. Don't call it that. What would you prefer? I was trying to save my business. With my name. You always act like your perfect little life matters more than mine. There it was. The resentment under everything. The truth behind every family guilt trip. I was not supposed to protect what I had built because Mason had failed to build anything. My life matters to me, I said. That should have been enough. My mother cried harder. Please don't report this. I looked at her. Report. She had gone there before I did. Interesting. Why? Because you could ruin your brother's life. I stared at her for a long second. Then I said, he damaged mine at a mortgage appointment. My father said, we plan to pay it back before you ever found out. You are 60 days late. Mason had a rough quarter. Mason committed identity theft. Mason slammed his hand on the table. You really going to say that about me? Yes. I'm your brother. You should have remembered that before using my name. My mother reached for me. I stepped back. That hurt her. Good. She said. You would have said no. I looked at her. That is why stealing was easier. Silence. Finally, I picked up the report. You have 24 hours to tell me everything. Every document, every login, every email, every person involved. After that, I go to the bank and the police. My father's face went pale. Adrian, don't do that. I am already doing more than I owe you by giving you 24 hours. Mason said, you're overreacting. I looked at him. No. I am underreacting because Natalie is not here to see this. Then I left. I drove home shaking. Not from fear. From restraint. There are moments when you realize the people who raised you are capable of looking at your future and deciding it is an acceptable sacrifice for someone else's comfort. That does not make you angry at first. It makes you disoriented. Like the floor moved and everyone else is pretending it is still level. Natalie was waiting when I got home. She had changed out of her scrubs and was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. I told her everything. No drama. No extra color. Just facts. She listened. When I finished, she said, they are not asking you to forgive a mistake. They are asking you to accept a crime. I leaned back in my chair. I know. Do you? I looked at her. She softened, but only slightly. Adrian, they did not panic because your credit was damaged. They panicked because Mason might face consequences. That tells you everything. I wanted to argue. Not because she was wrong. Because part of me still wanted there to be a version of this where my parents were just scared and stupid, not complicit. But Natalie was right. My mother had not said, I'm so sorry we hurt you. My father had not said, we will fix your credit immediately. Mason had not said, I stole from you. They had all said the same thing in different ways. Please do not make this real. Natalie reached across the table and took my hand. If this had been anyone else, what would you tell them to do? Report it, then do not give your family a discount on truth. The next morning, nobody sent the full truth. Instead, my mother sent a long text. Honey, I know this looks bad, but Mason was drowning. We were scared. Your father and I made a poor choice. Please do not go to the police, we can figure this out privately. You have always been better with money. Mason just needed a chance. I saved it. My father texted, I understand you're upset. But involving the police would permanently damage this family. Give me time to work out a repayment plan. Saved. Mason texted. You think you're so perfect. Go ahead and ruin me if that makes you feel like a big man. Saved. Then another from Mason. I was going to pay it before it hit your credit. You weren't supposed to find out. Saved. That one was useful. I called a consumer fraud attorney named Nora Blake. Her office was in a small brick building downtown between a tax preparer and a dentist. She wore a gray suit, no nonsense, and looked like she had personally defeated several banks before lunch. I showed her everything. Credit reports. Loan details. Texts. The mortgage fallout. My mother's admission. Mason's messages. Nora read in silence. Then she said, your family did not make one mistake. They made a paper trail. I almost smiled. What do I do? First, police report. Second, FTC identity theft report. Third, fraud affidavit to the lender. Fourth, disputes with all credit bureaus. Fifth, Keep all communication in writing. No phone calls unless recorded legally, and we will check your state law on that. 6th, do not agree to any private repayment that leaves the loan under your name. What if the bank says it is my responsibility? Then we fight. But with these texts, your brother and parents have already helped you more than they realize. I hired her. That afternoon, I filed the police report. I thought I would feel guilty. I did not. I felt sad. There is a difference. Guilt means you think you did something wrong. Sadness means you know something wrong happened. And the people who did it forced your hand. The officer taking the report was polite and careful. He asked if I was sure I wanted to proceed because family situations could get complicated. I said, it became complicated when they used my social security number. He nodded and kept typing. After that, Nora helped send the fraud packet to the lender. Identity theft affidavit. Police report number. Proof of my current address. Proof I did not own or operate Mason's business. Mortgage denial risk. Text messages showing admissions. Credit bureau disputes. Credit freeze confirmations. Everything. I went to work the next day like a normal person. That was strange. People around me complained about coffee, meeting schedules, and someone microwaving fish in the break room. Meanwhile, my brother had stolen my identity, my parents helped him, and I had filed a police report that might blow my family apart. At noon, my phone exploded. Mom? Dad? Mason? Mom again? Unknown number? Lauren? My aunt? Cousin Eric? Dad? Mason? I let everything go to voicemail. Then the text started. Mom. How could you do this? Police came to Mason's shop. Dad, you should have talked to us first. Mason. You really went to the cops on your own brother? I replied to Mason once. No. I reported identity theft. You made it personal when you used my name. Then I blocked him. My mother left a voicemail crying so hard I could barely understand her. You are destroying your brother. He could lose everything. Please call me. We can fix this. We are family. We are family. That phrase again. I sent the voicemail to Nora. She replied, do not engage. So I did not. Extended family started reaching out by evening. Some had clearly gotten my mother's version. Aunt Lauren wrote, I know Mason made a bad decision, but involving law enforcement seems extreme. I sent back. He used my identity to take out a $78,000 loan and damaged my credit while I was applying for a mortgage. Please explain the non-extreme version. She did not reply. Cousin Eric called and said, I don't want to get involved, but your mom is saying Natalie pushed you into this. That made me laugh. Of course. When a man stops being useful, blame the woman who loves him properly. Natalie did not forge my signature. I said. I know, I just thought you should know what they're saying. Thanks. Then he paused. Look, for what it's worth. Mason borrowed money from me last year too. Never paid it back. How much? $4,000. I closed my eyes. Anyone else? Probably. People just don't talk about it. That was when I realized I was not the first person Mason had used. I was just the first person who documented it. Over the next 2 weeks, the investigation moved slowly, then suddenly. The lender suspended collections against me while reviewing the fraud claim. The credit bureaus marked the account as disputed. Nora kept pushing. The bank requested more information from Mason's business. Mason apparently tried to claim I had given verbal permission. That lasted about as long as you would expect. Because Nora submitted text messages from 3 months before the loan where Mason had asked me to co-sign. Mason. Bro, I just need your credit for the application. I'll make all payments. Me. No. I am not co-signing or attaching my name to your business. Mason, seriously? You know I'm good for it. Me. No. Mason. Must be nice to look down on everybody. Me. Still no. That exchange became very useful. They thought Adrian would have helped if he knew, sounded better than Adrian said no, so we stole. Unfortunately for them, I had the no in writing. The bank investigation eventually found the application had been submitted online from an IP address connected to Mason's shop. The funds went to his business account. Initial payments came from that account. My old address had been used. The contact phone number was Mason's second line. The email address was a variation of my name that I did not create. Then came the part that hurt most. My mother had emailed Mason a scanned copy of an old tax document with my social security number on it. Subject line. This should have what you need. That one took me a while to process. Not because it surprised me anymore. Because there is something uniquely ugly about seeing betrayal in your mother's helpful tone. Nora called me after that came through. Are you sitting down? I am now. Your mother is directly tied to providing identifying information. I figured. Your father may also be involved. There are emails about mail going to their house. What kind of emails? Your father told Mason to make sure no letters came to your address. I closed my eyes. Of course. They had not just helped with the beginning. They helped hide it. Nora said, "I'm sorry. Lawyers do not say that often unless they mean it." I told Natalie that night. She cried. Not for herself. For me. I did not cry. Not then. Instead, I went into our spare room, where boxes of house stuff had started collecting before the mortgage fell apart. Curtain rods. 2 lamps. A set of dishes Natalie bought on sale because she said they felt like first house dishes. I sat on the floor beside those boxes and felt something in me go very still. They had taken more than my credit. They had taken the moment we were supposed to have. The first key. The first night eating pizza on the floor. The first argument about paint colors. The first morning in a house that was ours. Even if we got another house later, they had stolen that one. Not the property. The future attached to it. A week later, my parents asked to meet. Nora said I should not go unless I wanted to and only in a public place. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop. Natalie came with me. My mother looked offended when she saw her. "Is she necessary?" Mom asked. Natalie smiled politely. "Yes." My father looked exhausted. Mason was not there. "Good." We sat. My mother started crying before anyone spoke. "I hope you are happy," she said. Natalie's hand tightened around mine under the table. I said, "That's an interesting opening." Mom wiped her eyes. "Mason is losing the business. The bank froze things. He has been questioned. Your father and I had to hire an attorney. Do you understand what this is doing to us?" I stared at her. "Do you understand what you did to me? We were trying to help your brother. You committed fraud." My father leaned in. "Keep your voice down." There it was. Not shame. Not remorse. Concern about volume. I lowered my voice. "You committed fraud quietly. That does not make it less criminal." Mom looked at Natalie. "You have turned him against us." Natalie laughed softly. It shocked all 3 of us. Then she said, "No, Diane. You did that when you used his identity." My father said, "This is a family matter." "No," Natalie said. "It became a legal matter when you put his name on a loan." My mother's face hardened. "You do not understand. Mason is not like Adrian. Adrian has always landed on his feet. Mason struggles." I nodded. "So your solution was to damage the son who does not struggle. We thought you could recover." That sentence ended whatever little remained. There it was. Plain, they knew it could hurt me. They did it because they believed I could absorb the injury better than Mason could handle consequences. I stood. My father said, "Sit down." "No." Mom cried, "Please, Adrian. Drop the report. We can still handle this privately." I looked at her. "You had almost a year to handle it privately. You handled it by hiding mail and missing payments." She whispered, "He could face charges." "I know. He is your brother. He was my brother when he stole my name." My father said, "You are choosing money over family." I looked at him for a long time. "No. You chose Mason over my future. I am choosing not to pay for that choice." Then Natalie and I left. The consequences did not arrive all at once. They came like bills. The bank removed the loan from my credit file after confirming fraud. That did not magically fix everything overnight, but it started the repair. The late payments were deleted. The account was blocked from reporting against me. The credit bureaus updated the disputes. My score began recovering. Slowly. The original house was gone by then. Sold to someone else. Natalie cried the day we saw the listing marked pending. She tried to hide it. I told her she did not have to. We sat on the couch in our apartment, staring at the photos online like we were looking at a life that had belonged to strangers. "I know it's just a house," she said. "No," I said. "It was our house." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I hate them for that." I did too, not loudly, not constantly, but completely. Mason's business collapsed within 3 months. The van was repossessed. The shop lease ended. He moved back in with my parents. My mother told people I had destroyed his dream. That was almost funny. Mason's dream had been built on my stolen name, my stolen credit, and payments he did not make. If that dream collapsed when truth touched it, it was not a dream. It was fraud with branding. Extended family split. Some thought I went too far. They got blocked. Some quietly told me Mason had borrowed money from them too. They did not get blocked. But I also did not become their support group. I had enough of my own damage to handle. My parents tried several times to reach me. Emails. Letters. Calls from unknown numbers. My father wrote once, "Your mother is not sleeping. She made a terrible mistake. But she loves you." I replied, "Love does not scan a tax form and send it to the person stealing from me." Then I blocked him too. 6 months later, Natalie and I found another house. Smaller than the first. Different neighborhood. Older roof. Better kitchen. A backyard with one huge oak tree that looked like it had survived several generations of human stupidity and was not impressed by any of us. We were cautious this time. I checked my credit obsessively. Every document, every report, every inquiry, every account. The mortgage officer was different, thankfully. She did not know the full story, only that I had been a victim of identity theft and everything was now resolved. When she said we were clear to close, Natalie squeezed my hand under the table so hard it hurt. I did not tell my family. No announcement. No photos. No invitation to see the place. No forwarding address. Moving day was quiet. A couple of friends helped. Natalie's sister brought sandwiches. We ate on the floor because we still did not have the right table. It was not the house we first chose. But it was ours. And this time, no one in my family knew where to send the damage. The first night, after everyone left, Natalie and I sat in the living room surrounded by boxes. She had written kitchen stuff maybe? On 3 different boxes, which told me our labeling system had failed immediately. She leaned against me and said, "Do you feel safe?" I thought about that. The credit freezes. The new passwords. The locked file cabinet. The safe deposit box. The block numbers. The police report. The family I no longer spoke to. Yes, I said. But not because they can't hurt me. She looked up. Then why? Because now I believe they would. That sounds sad. It was. But it was also freedom. Trusting someone who has proven they will hurt you is not kindness. It is self-harm with sentimental music. People love to say I destroyed my family over a loan. They are wrong. It was not just a loan, it was my name. My credit. My future home. My fiancé's trust. Years of discipline turned into collateral for Mason's failure. They begged me not to report him because the truth would ruin his life. What they never understood was that the lie had already damaged mine. They said I should have protected my brother, but I had spent my whole life watching people protect Mason from consequences. That was how we got here. Every missed payment someone covered. Every excuse someone accepted. Every, "he's trying," that became permission for him to try less. Every time my parents treated my stability as a resource Mason could draw from. So this time, I protected myself. I froze my credit. Filed the report. Told the truth. Let the bank investigate. Let the police write it down. Let every person involved explain, in legal language, why they thought my name belonged to them. And when the truth started collecting the debt, I did not stop it. I still get angry sometimes. Not the old sharp anger. More like a dull bruise when something reminds me. A commercial for small business loans. A bank letter. A family at a restaurant where the parents look proud of both sons without measuring which one can be sacrificed for the other. But most days, I am fine. Better than fine. Natalie and I painted the living room last month. We disagreed for 3 days over shades of green that looked identical to every sane person. We bought a couch that barely fit through the door. We adopted a dog named Milo because Natalie won that argument before I knew it had started. Our spare bedroom is currently my office. Maybe someday it will be a nursery. Maybe not. But whatever it becomes, it will be ours. No stolen loan. No hidden debt. No family emergency waiting to use my life as backup funding. My mother sent one final letter to my workplace because she no longer had my address. I did not open it. I gave it to Nora, who scanned it in case we needed a record, then asked if I wanted to read it. I said no. Maybe it had an apology. Maybe it had guilt. Maybe it had another reason Mason needed help. It did not matter. I had spent too many years letting my family turn explanations into obligations. I was done. My brother stole my identity. My parents helped him hide it. Then they begged me not to report him because the truth would ruin his life. But a family that only survives when lies stay hidden is not a family. It is a conspiracy with holiday dinners. So I told the truth. And if the truth destroyed my family, then maybe the family had already been built on fraud. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.